Scholars. Hello. Welcome to the counselor's office. We're going to jump straight into it. This seems like a very long tweet. I kind of scrolled through. We're just going to jump into it, and this is going to be a different video where it's not a lot of quirkiness. We're just going to read through and give some thoughts, and we're going to try to do as quickly as possible. I'm skipping all the crap no one cares about. What we care about is that there is a bunch of nerfs. Hello there. This is the Destiny 2 sandbox team, ready to talk about the most significant systematic overhauls coming with the Edge of Fate. Additive melee damage stacking. The short version is almost all sources of increased melee damage are buffed. All sources of increased melee damage stack at a full efficacy in PvE, and we're using additive damage increase calculation for melee damage. Currently in Destiny 2, most sources increase damage in Destiny 2 are multiplicative. Two hypothetical 50% damage increases, a 1.5 times increase in damage, are multiplied together for a total of 125%, or a 2.25% damage increase. This approach to increases has more problems. So essentially, if it was additive, it would be 100. Because it's multiplicative, it's 125. So it is more. For one, the more damage increase effects apply over time, the more powerful they become, which means that the best builds and strategies can start to revolve around simply having as many buffs as possible. This is a pattern we saw in Destiny 2 prior to the mutual exclusive power damage buff system for weapons. Additionally, balancing the game becomes more and more difficult the more sources of increased damage we add. We do not want to have to choose between bosses being one shot by players or who are stacking as many buffs as possible, or bosses feeling like bullet sponges. So the funny thing is 90% of the community isn't doing this. Just so we're all clear, this is for your low mans. This is for your solo runs, like people who are soloing Caretaker with this build, who are soloing dungeons. This is a very niche amount of people doing it. Now, I could see them also doing it because obviously everyone spams concentration builds, which I don't know how much that's going to nerf it overall. We'll have to see. I do think people using like 1-2 punch shotguns and strand meleeing things to deaths in solo runs like Caretaker. This is more targeted to like a very niche population, but everyone's being impacted, which kind of sucks. How melee damage will work now. When Edge of Fate is released on July 15th, melee damage increases Destiny will be additive. That means, 50 plus 50 will be 100 now. This does result in a lower damage ceiling for melee abilities. It is unlikely that most bosses will ever be one shot with melee abilities going forward. But because we do not need to worry about someone stacking these melee buffs and trivializing most content in the game, we can do two very cool things. We are buffing almost all effects that increase melee damage, some of them by doubling the damage they do now. In PvE, melee damage increasing effects always stack. So here's the thing. If you had a build that was already taking advantage of like stacking buffs for melee, it's a flat nerf. If you're just a little Timmy who just occasionally throws their melee out, it sounds like they're going to buff that. So our goal, and I say little Timmy, like we'll see what else they plan on nerfing. The goals of the change to make it much easier to create personalized builds that work the way you want. Sure, that it's more of a we're nerfing this, but we're going to try to make you sound like it's a good thing. Systematic updates. Every effect that increases melee damage has been converted to use additive damage stacking. Every item that has been changed as part of this has been listed below, with a single exception. The new melee stat introduced with armor 3.0 increases the damage of melee when going over 100 points up to an extra 30% at 2. So this will be multiplicative. Was that what they're saying? The damage bonus provided by the set is considered to be increased to the base damage of a player's melee stack ability in his yes, with other damage. In short, you're putting together a melee build, you'll want, that would make sense. Additionally, melee damage no longer scales Scorch Ignition. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know it did, but I think that's why concentration is so good. So this is another nerf to concentration titans. Ooh. And even hunters, because I know people would use throwing knives to cause ignition explosions. So that's a nerf. The logic behind this change is similar to logic underlying Jolt. I didn't even know they changed Jolt. We have opted for a more targeted change here. Incinerator Snap and Concentration Slam remain powerful options. I didn't even think Incinerator Snap was that broken, but okay. As centerpiece abilities and melee focused builds, and as potent damage focused tools in their builds. Yeah, so I knew this was definitely, this is how they're nerfing concentration slam. GlaiveS. I've actually started becoming a glaive guy. So as part of our melee over, we're revisiting the role of glaive in the sandbox. We would like glaives to find a more permanent home in melee focused builds. So, okay, I don't like where that's going. They provide a defensive tool to help you on your target and a faster, more potent, unpowered melee ability that Guardians would have otherwise. That's right, glaive melee is considered unpowered melee ability in Edge of Fate. Okay. Anything that increases the strength of unpowered melee abilities will now increase the strength of glaives, including the melee stat. That part's cool. This does come at a cost. While glaives have a much clearer role and have a higher damage ceiling, we need to reduce their base melee damage in PvE to bring them more in line with unpowered. So you're nerfing glaives. Guys, we want you to use glaives, but we're going to nerf them because very few people use them. Guys, you know that thing? Yeah, we don't want you using the melee. We just want you to use projectile. Talk about this is how you kill. If people didn't if people didn't have a reason to not use glaives, now they do. Glaives have a much clearer role and have a higher damage ceiling. So they nerfed it, but then gave you a higher ceiling that you have to build into glaives, which is another reason why no one will want to use glaives. But even after these changes, glaives melee has a much higher damage per second output than who the fuck is running around in Grandmaster punching things? And yes, I do use glaives in Grandmaster when there's unstop or if I have chill clip, because you can freeze them and do damage. In short, if your build relies on unpowered melees, glaives will be the best way to increase. No, okay, so kill glaives. Glaives are dead. Glaive melee is now considered a unpowered. They will now receive melee damage increase at full effect. In all cases where an unpowered melee would, including damage increase the steps, they already do. Knockout, I don't think they did, so that's kind of cool. Offensive bulwark, I didn't think they did. Constant combination blow, spark. So there's more keywords it worked out. It worked with banner and warm god. So they nerfed it, but they gave you more availability on what you can buff. So how bad are they nerfing this? Melee now triggers all effects that are triggered by any melee ability. They will no longer benefit from some weapon damage, such as Radiant, as it's no longer weapon damage. RIP. That was what we were using glaives to beat the Ghost of the Deep boss. RIP. Like, okay, that's really weird. Effects that modify the behavior of basic melee attacks, such as Titan Aspect Knockout that changes basic melee from Connect to Arc, will not affect the behavior of glaive melee. Glaive melee damage to PvE has been adjusted to compensate for the increased access to damage, increasing 40%, bro. Just so you guys know, if you increase your melee stat to 200, it's like 35%. So it's almost like you have to be in the melee stat to make up the difference to be pre-nerf. And then champions 28% and 50% against bosses. Like, first off, who's meleeing? Well, okay, I guess winter bite against they saw people winter biting the boss in the dungeon for Ghost of the Deep, Ekathar, and they're like, no, we can't have that. No, we can't have that. People are using glaives. No. Wow. This is about how to kill glaives. I'm probably going to still use them because I use them like a riot chill clip. I still think chill clip, but am I going to be as aggressive with the melee, like the actual melee? No, glaives are just utility now. They're dead. You should see glaives as just a utility now. Don't ever see them. Like, if you want damage, use a sidearm, rocket sidearm, or the new pulse rifle sidearm, or sorry, rocket pulse rifles, the new archetype. Prismatic, they're buffing it to 50%. By the way, all these, for anyone who just casually uses melees, these are all buffs. Most of these are nerfs because remember, you could probably stack just normal things and have it increase. But I mean, at least they're buffing all this stuff. So arc, 100%, works with melee at full effect. So you're getting 100% melee. What was they keep saying at full effect. What were glaive melees giving at spark of feedback? Were they just not getting anything at all? Because 100%, that if you take, it's additive, remember? So if they're taking 40%, 50%, This using spark and feedback will just immediately give you 50% increase against bosses, or 70-ish, 60 something percent against champions, mini bosses, and what else? It will give you, is it 60% on red bars? So you pretty much have to build into using a glaive, which I think is still bad. Melee damage bonus no longer decreased when using Syntheseps, huge. Titan, same thing. These are all buffs. 200%. Knockout, 160%. PvE melee damage increase to 160%. So 160% on knockout. So Titan glaving is still on the table because knockout, like if you can activate knockout with a glaive, like Titans, like I'm a blade master on a Titan now. That's like, I'm not a crown eater. I'm just a blade master using swords and glaives. Even with the 50%, that's still 100% increase than what it normally did. So at its high end, I do agree it's a buff. I just feel like people are going to see the nerfs, and people who aren't like building into melee aren't going to use it. But for me, Titan wise, like I'll never use this in any other class besides Titan personally. 160%. Okay. Yeah. Titan banner, increased from 40% to 100%. Oh, I don't know what it was giving earlier. Like, no, banner was already working, so that's interesting. Stylish executioner, 300%. Combination blow, 400%. If the 400% applies to the glaive, increased melee damage now works on glaives. Okay, I take it back. Hunters may be the new glaive masters. 400% is nothing to scoff at. If this is actually being sent into your glaive, like even with the nerfs, 400% is nothing to scoff at, along with Trident. Yeah. Holy. Okay, so glaives have a chance to get a 600% plus a multiplicative of 30%. Okay. I am a Titan, but hunters might be juiced with glaives. Like glaives are getting a nerf all around, but you pretty much, like when they said you had to make a melee glaive build, they were like, we're making this its own thing. Like you want to use glaives, you now can have the true power of a glaive user, but that's the only thing you can do, which you know what? That's more MMO. Listen, I know I was being overly negative, so if you're still watching, it is negative that there's a bunch of nerfs, but I see the vision. They're trying to consolidate and make you like Strongholds is a tanking build, which I hope they like in the future build into being able to be a tank, right? It's a role. Glaive is now a role that people can play, and it seems like hunters are going to have the best kit with 200% and an arc. Like arc might be the glaive main. Arthas 300% PvE. Liar's handshake 400% and spirit. Okay, I don't. So here's the thing: I don't think you could stack 1-2 punch in Liars anyways. Like there was diminishing returns. So this is just a buff to hunters with the spirit of Liars and prismatic, unless they nerf that. Ophidian throwing knives bonus to 200%. Triton, yep. Hard and slow. Maximum PV damage increased 50%. Now increased damage of unpowered. Okay. Peregrine Greaves 400%. Impact damage bonus against non-champions, non-tormentors, Okay. So they don't want they don't want people one-shotting anymore. They're like, guys, you can't one-shot our champions because we love spamming champions and we want to make the game harder because of champions, even though Banes do a better job. Synthoseps, I mean, is unchanged, 165%. Melee damage is no longer decreased when using combination blows, stylish executioner, and glaive. Bonus damage is still decreased against players when using lightning surge. Okay, players, but it's funny. They're like 165%. That's all you need. The Titans, that's it. That's it. You don't need any more. It's crazy that they give Triton though. Like they gave Triton 400%. Was it 400%? Yeah, 400%. Wishful ignorance. I don't even know what exotic is this. Frenzy blade 200%. Fletch 200%. Oh, it's that one exotic that lets you go in the air and throw stuff. Okay. Worm God Caress. 400%. Okay, well, there's your... You can have Titans be at the same place. You just have to build... Wait a minute. Can you build stacks with Worm God Caress using GlaiveS? If so, this is the new glaive right here. Syntheseps, goodbye. Worm God's Caress, hello. Melee damage no longer decreased when using Roaring Flames or glaive. Woo! Okay, Titan, Worm God's now my best friend. Warlocks, Winter Guile, maximum PV damage increased 400%. All right, close to melee, 30% to 60%, which is pretty much the only melee player. Like sword logic never worked. I wish they would change sword logic. 1-2 punch from 100% to 150%. Now works with all melee abilities. Melee damage bonus is no longer increased when liars. Oh, so it's you could use. That's so weird. So we won't be able to one-shot like raid bosses, but how much damage? 100. It's additive, so 150% for us. What was it? 400 for 300. So 350% damage plus the multiplicative. It's just really weird to figure it out. Like, how bad is the nerf? Because remember, all this is getting buffed, but it's generally everything's getting a nerf because you can't. It's not multiplicative. Like, big numbers sound great. This is additive. Multiplicative is always better. So everything is a nerf. Everything is in a nerf state. So it's not even the maximum damage it could achieve because multiplicatives would make it go higher. But the question is, what's the difference? Like, at what point does it start going above what multiplicative is, but at the point where they don't one-shot? I don't think there is. I think the whole point is that everything's nerfed. At base, they're being raised, but the potential, the ceiling is being lowered. Okay, that's what's happening. The ceiling is up here, and the floor right here with like where it's at, but they're raising the floor, but they're dramatically dropping the ceiling. So it's still overall a nerf. It is a buff for people who just don't know how to build into it. Like, let's say casuals are going to benefit from this, or people who are just casually using melees are getting a straight benefit. Like, if you're just using a melee to kill something real quick, you're gonna see the increase in damage. If you're someone who's having a build specifically on punching and killing, concentration slam, 1-2 punching, you're seeing a dramatic drop. Combination blow, you're seeing a drop. Exotic weapons, Bastion, Saint's Fist now 30%. Nice. I think, isn't this like a 1-2 punch on the Bastion? Increased time the perk is active. Monte Carlo no longer deals reduced damage to boss and mini boss champions. I didn't even know it did. Winter Bite, reduced damage to 20% from 50%. Ooh. Man, you know, it is crazy that Bungie saw this and they're like, yeah, we have bosses. This tells me that there's a boss that you like, maybe a raid boss that Winter Bite would cook on. This is absolutely what's happening. Bungie just doesn't nerf things or nerf things. There's absolutely a boss that we're going to be able to sword, glaive, something that people were going to be able to cheese to death because of how melee is multiplicative. So be prepared. Have some melee builds. Have some builds to counter stomp mechanics. This is what it's looking like. All right, exotics. The Dragon Shadow. It has long felt weird how similar Dragon Shadow and Speedloader stacks are in their effects. We're both centered on dodging to get stats. To alleviate some of the weirdness, Dragon Shadow has gained many of these stats and had its perks updated to fit with the new suite of player stats. The Dragon Shadow now passively increases weapon stability and ready speed. Nice. Dodging reloads your equipped weapon. No longer reloads holstered weapons. Oh. Wait. I didn't know it did holstered weapons. Okay, that's no big deal. Usually when I dodge, I want to reload my weapon I have in hand anyways. So, like, let's be honest. Dragon Shadows was mostly used for PvP. Activating your dodge grants the following effects. Stability, handling, sliding, strength, class. Yeah. For PvP is still going to be really good. Speedloader. With these bonuses given away, we took more PvE-oriented approach to Speedloader slacks, allowing hunters to be able to provide a benefit akin to Lunafaction to boost their allies to be able to carry around during higher end content. Adjusted the tight fit perk. Dodging reloads all weapons and grants increased handling and reload for you and nearby allies. While this buff is active, additional dodges increase the strength of the buff and refresh the timer. Dealing sustained damage grants. Oh! So, hunters, pop your golden gun, swap to speed load stacks during DPS, dodge, and give everyone increased reload. Mask of Bacchus. Mask of Bacchus has always been an evocative and visually fun exotic, but largely used in PvP. We made some changes to let you play into the fallen captive fantasy even more so in PvE, while also pairing well with new stats. It also now usable in arc subclasses and supers. Effects are now active when either an arc or stasis super is equipped. Good. Reworked Light Shift no longer provides a non-stacking surge bonus. Now grants plus 10% damage for eligible weapons, stasis, arc weapons, and Lord of Wolves per stack. Stacked up to 3 times. While active, weapon final blows grant class abilities and energy. Okay. That's interesting. So you get a 30% stacks up to 3 times. So how the hell do you stack it? It stacks up to 3. So you dodge 3 times? Like how the hell do you get this? How do you stack it 3 times? What? Anyways, I don't know if that's a nerf or a buff. I never used it. PvE, I mean, it sounds cool. Like Lord of Wolves getting just by using this exotic, you're getting an increase of damage. I mean, it sounds free to me. Really weird that it didn't also apply to Queensbreaker since they're both fallen weapons. Kepri Steam. Kepri Steam has been a fairly niche PvP exotic for some time, so we wanted to rework it. Isn't this the second time they reworked it? Remove automatic smoke bomb. Oh no, sorry, this is hunters. Remove automatic smoke bomb activation when using a melee attack. Remove true sight when dealing damage with a smoke bomb. Added killing weakened targets creates a burst of weakening smoke and returns smoke bomb. Yeah, I don't know about that. That's probably going to still be very niche. Oathkeepers. Oathkeepers have not been quite worth the time investment to overdraw for the damage bonus, so we tuned that a bit for some better ease of use and higher potential payout. Priest maximum damage to 200%. Now provides more of the total bonus earlier in the overdraw. Okay. 200% to your bow. That would make like certain bows better. Like, but you're again, here's the problem. I still think that there needs to be a little bit more for bow potential. Like just a little bit more. If you want people to use bows more, like Oathkeepers needs to be a little sweeter. 200% is nice for people who love bows. You're just eating good. Blight Ranger. We're 20 minutes in. I need to go faster. Blight Ranger had a rough time with previous balance changes, failing to hit the mark. Despite that, we believe that the most recent rework established a playstyle that fits the fantasy of the exotic. However, its cancellation effect still didn't feel worth investment, especially due to a challenging bug, how its damage scaled. So we've given it a bit of extra juice. Actually, a lot of extra juice. Biggest issue where cancellation damage was not consistently scaling based on voltaic mirror progress. Adjusted voltaic mirror meter now requires 20% less reflections to reach maximum. Feels more evenly. Blocked melee attacks now count as a reflection. Maximum cancellation damage increased by 50%. This is in addition to the fix above. Minimum cancellation now applies blind before dealing damage. No one's going to use this still. The Arc Strider, no one's going to use this. I'm sorry. Maybe PvP. Maybe. No one's going to use this. Sorry. No one's going to use this. Titan. Especially when you can just use the one and done Arc Super and then you can do DPS. Like, no one's going to use that. Press of Alpalupa. Over the years, we have seen a lot of love when it comes to the new additions to things like support frames with Edge of Fate. We took a look at some clearly support-oriented exotics that aren't popular to give them a leg up to the modern sandbox. Starting with Crest of Alpalupa, we wanted to keep it subclass agnostic while letting it feel like one-stop shop for support Titan fantasy. Additional, sustained damage while behind a barricade trigger, another smaller healing post. Healing your allies grant barricade. Okay. I'm just going to kind of Mosey. Okay, I don't see any nerfs to strongholds. Sorry, I got scared. Phoenix Cradle. The next clear option was Phoenix Cradle, which was that good exotic actually. There's a lot of ways to generate sunspots, but it's always felt like you couldn't create them where you wanted to maximize the effect of Phoenix Cradle. So we tackled that while hitting a very commonplace feedback when it comes to Cradle-enabled sunplace visuals. Update VX on sunspots while the user has Phoenix Cradle to look more clearly supportive to allies. Added additional effects. Dealing sustained solar damage in a sunspot extends its duration. That's huge. Providing solar buffs to allies has a chance to create a sunspot at your feet. That's huge. I always thought it was a good exotic. It just needed some love. Maybe this will be enough. MK stand-asides. I don't even remember what they do. Stand-asides, ironically, left in the dust. The exotic lost its role with the introduction of Juggernaut and other changes that made the melee refund less valuable. We removed the melee energy refund on shoulder charge, hit, and over shield while sprinting. These are replaced by more arc-centric perks that turn you and your allies into an unstoppable force. Sprinting with Juggernaut active periodically grants you stack of static charge. Sprinting while amplified creates an area behind you that grants also speed booster. No one's going to use that. Path of Burning Step. We like how Path of Burning Step played in Season of the Wish before previously changes to the exotic to return to its glory days, gleefully frolicking with Polaris Lance. Dude, it was so good. We added back some of the bonus damage by tying it to Roaring Flames. Increase solar damage and solar ignition damage based on the number of stacks of Roaring Flames you have. Ooh, that's huge. That makes me care a little bit. Roaring Flames grants 20% bonus damage and 50% ignition damage. Stacks with surge mods. Nice. So it stacks. Reduce the duration of suspend, slow, freeze, and reduce the duration of suspend. Okay. Yeah. Oh, so it was just slow, but now it's suspend and freeze. I think these two. So this is a new keyword, suspend. Yeah, 20% to bonus damage and just that stacks with surges. Like, that's kind of huge. Ambient Leap remains a potent choice, but we wanted to add a small nudge in efficiency that won't overtune the whole super kit. I've not used Ambient Leap in years. Here. Now increases the duration of suspend applied by... Ooh! Is this like pre-nerf suspend? That's actually huge. Like, if it's pre-nerf, that makes it so much better. Actium War Rig. These changes to Actium War Rig go along with the new weapon stat, giving you an option of building your loadout around an exotic to keep its new kill streak bonus. Think Worm God Caress for auto rifles and machine guns. Worm Gun Caress, no shot. Final blows increase their stability, ammo generation, and damage. Stacks up 10 times. Higher stacks expires more quickly. Wait, how much more damage? You can literally be the Terminator. Holy Spirit Alpha Loopy. Healing grants. Okay, so we're just gonna, yeah. Starfire Protocol. Empowering damage has been written on Starfire Protocol. Has always left it pretty confusing. With the new words of stats, we figured it was high time to clear up this confusion and give the exotic well-deserved boost, even though you nerfed it to the ground the first time. Also activates on radiant damage. Ooh. Increases fusion grenade gains 5%. Reduce fusion energy gain final blows 15%. It's still a nerf, like 5%. Like it, I still think no one's going to use this, except for maybe Vault Glass. Wings of Sacred Dawn. With the release of other items such as Manticore, we've seen some gripes when it comes to exotics that ask the player to survive while airborne. So to give some help to Wings of Sacred Dawn, we've taken a look at that. Combatants are less accurate toward you while Tomb of Dawn is active. While the Solar is equipped, Solar weapon final blows grant restoration and reload your stowed weapons. Man, who knows? Bellwinters has been hard to keep up with the difficulty progression of activities, oftentimes leading to them being great in power or low power content, but extremely feast and famine and higher difficulty activities. For weapons, we can usually help remedy this on sustained damage effects. In the case of armor, like helm, on equivalent on hit. Powered melee damage weakens targets. Applies 50% weaken. Weaken effects applied by the burst via melee or finisher are unchanged. So now you get a 50% weaken by just throwing a melee. I don't know how well that's going to be worth it. I'm going to be honest. Prometheus Spurs. In a world with so many rifle weapon exotics, it's also been hard to make a combo rift feel truly good. How many hoops it asks you to jump through. So with this pass, we're looking at an alternative approach to the combo rift that will let players hook into other atoms on the solar subclass to allow for more versatile benefits. Rework the perk Ember of Light. While Solar Super is equipped, weapon defeats grant class ability energy, and weapon defeats in a rift grants different solar verb depending on the refill. While healing, weapon defeats create a pulse that grants radiant to you and your allies, while an empowering it grants you cure. So it's the vice versa. So if you run this on healing, you can just give radiant for free. That's actually huge because well is the same thing. Oh my God. They're trying to remove the need for well. You could just run Prometheum Spurs, run a healing rift. The problem is you'd have this healing rift doesn't last nearly as long as well, but essentially healing rift heals you the same amount, I believe, as a well, but radiant is the same as well radiant, I think, right? Or is it like 5% less than well radiant? I think it's the same thing. So they're like, hey guys, you can just have your own mini well without having to use an exotic. The problem is you're tied into using a solar subclass, but you could use this on prismatic. So you still can, you can have some more versatility and like survivability, but it feels like the outcome is still the same, that you still are, guys, you're not stuck on well, but you still have to be on solar. Actually, you can now be in Sunsinger. That's right. So you can give everyone DR plus healing in a rift and radiant at the same time. But the problem is you have to be able to kill enemies to activate it. Weapon defeats create a pulse, radiant. So yeah, so you have to get a kill to activate the radiant, which is much shorter than well. So it's like a band-aid, but I don't think it's really going to replace well. Boots of the Assembler. Currently, Speaker Sight largely outclasses Boots of the Assembler. Speaker Sight is similarly potent at healing enemies, allies, produces orbs to power your build, and doesn't require you to stand in a rift to get benefits. Plus, Boots of the Assembler and Noble Seekers are just not that smart. So we sent them to college, and they now target allies more reliably, spread their healing out more effectively, and give a more flexible benefit when they find an ally. Noble Seekers no longer spawn in waves, instead spawn at a constant rate based on fire team size. Average of Seekers per 8 seconds is unchanged. It will produce 1 per ally in that period. Noble Seeker tracking range increased to 40 meters. Priorities those who have not been healed in the last 8 seconds. Can now target allies standing in a rift producing them. Will not target any ally more than once every 4 seconds. Will not detonate when passed near an ally they are not targeting. They will still detonate if they make direct impact with an ally they are not targeting. So don't walk in the way. No longer grants extended rift duration. Instead grants class ability energy. Because if you so your rift wouldn't last long and it would feel bad if it missed something, but just getting a hit would give you class. So it might be a trade-off. We enjoy watching players shoot out beams of concentration energy just as much as you all did generating. With the launch of the Edge of Fate, we are limiting some of that unlimited power. To compensate, we took a pass at retuning its sprint for bolt charge. Reduce super energy granted by iconic trait to 4 from 7%. We knew this nerf was happening. Retune sprinting to top off bolt charge. Decrease bolt charge stacks required before sprinting. Will grant additional stacks from 6 to 5. Decrease the amount of time required to sprinting to start from 2 seconds to 1. Increase the rate bolt charge is granted while this effect is active on every 1.5 second to every 3.3 seconds. We knew that it was too much energy. I mean, we knew it was going to happen. It was just very strong to get super energy like that. And that's it. No one gives a shit about echoes. That's it. Let me know what you guys think. I think there's some good changes here. There's some questionable changes. I think there's some exotics that just still won't be touched. I do say, like, some things are interesting. Like, I don't think this will ever be touched. I don't know. Maybe in PvP this will be used, but in PvE, like, why would, as a warlock, I can just think of 30 different exotics that are better than me. Like, this actively just lets me sit in the air and shoot my gun, which if that's all you want to do, then go pop off. This is for you. But most people like using their abilities, their grenade builds or whatever. And it just seems like it seems meh. This seems interesting. Being able to weaken on demand with a melee is cool, but we also have grenades to do that too. Like void grenades. This one interests me because it's like a mini well. It's like mini well, but I still don't think that's going to be enough to make people switch off of well. I mean, for maybe grandmasters, maybe. But for like contest mode stuff, people are still going to use well, or they're going to use both. Let's be honest, they're probably going to use both. Like, hey, I can use this and well at the same time, so I can have just extended well. Yeah, I think melee changes overall are a nerf because they significantly drop the potential while raising the floor. So if you never reached potential, you never did the cool melee stuff, and you never, like, you are going to see this as a benefit, right? If you're just a casual who never interacts, or a veteran who has builds that just have a melee on them and you use them when you use them, it's a buff, right? But the melee all around is a nerf from the top to the middle, right? It's a nerf. Now they're doing housework. I think you can hear them. I think glaives are a nerf for most people. Like for me, who knows how to use glaives and likes using glaives, I'm going to find a way to make it a buff, but I do think it's a nerf, and people are going to see that they're doing less damage, and they're going to meet, and the fact that they have to build into it now, it's immediately going to turn people off. Like glaives needed more advertisement to be useful, and now people just don't want to use them. I can just see that where they're completely like glaive, delete. For someone like me who knows the potential of a glaive, especially in grandmasters, especially with like my chill clip rake angle, I'm gonna probably min-max this somehow with my sword build, because I'm a blade master. I'm gonna make it work, but it's a playstyle that is very niche, and I think it's only gonna get nicher. Let me know what you guys think with these buffs and nerfs. I think some of them are definitely buffs, but there's a lot of nerfs for sure. Let me know what you think, and especially the exotics that got buffs. Like, do you think they're enough? I don't. I think some of these are very niche, and they will continue to be niche because we just have so many good exotics. And that's the problem with having a D2 continuing and not a D3. You have the constant, oh, well, we already have this from 3 years ago. Maybe it's time to move on to a new game. Just saying, Bungie. I'm Mr. Game Counselor. Hit the like button and comment down below. Subscribe to the channel for more. And as always,